In studio to discuss this is Dr. Engineer Morris Oleng, and he is a structural engineer. And good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Betty. Good evening.
Good evening to you. So we are going to delve right in, like I earlier told you. I want us to know, and people out there to understand, how prepared are our buildings to withstand disasters? We have seen a number of fire outbreaks recently. We have seen also in other structural places, Katwe, we have one around Wandegea, then the other time in Chireka. So how prepared and how strong are our buildings when it comes to withstanding all this?
Thank you very much, Betty. Our buildings, the building stock in this country is largely substandard, and a huge fraction of our building stock comprises the unreinforced masonry constructions, which are inherently have a very low vulnerability, especially in respect to the natural disasters. And so we are doing a lot of efforts to ensure that we put in place standards that can actually be enforced to ensure that our buildings actually can withstand many of the effects of these earthquakes.
Can you kindly elaborate more about this? Because moving forward, one would like to understand, like we recently had another fire outbreak there at Luwum Street. What are some of these specifically? Maybe you point them out one by one, like at least 5 that you're aiming at, especially for building owners and structure owners.
Yeah, thank you, Betty. One of the things that we are doing is basically to focus on investigating the causes of these fires. We know that many of them have happened across the country, but also what the National Building Review Board has done in the recent past is to ensure that we put in place fire safety assessment measures, and we've also done many of the assessments. For instance, in the schools, we've done a study on school fires, and we've come up with a fire safety assessment toolkit, and we are showing this to many of the developers, and they can put in place things like fire detectors, fire extinguishers, as well as training the school administrators to ensure that they can have these fire drills run within the staff within the school administration. So that is one of the things that the National Building Review Board is doing very actively to ensure that our buildings are very resilient against man-made disasters like fires.
The mobile testing laboratory.
Yeah.
What does it do? When someone hears it, we think about science. We go medical. Break it down for an ordinary viewer who is watching from home.
Yes, the mobile testing laboratory is very good equipment that the National Building Review Board has, and it has a lot of the equipment that can actually undertake non-destructive tests on the buildings. Previously, what has been done is to use visual inspection to look at a building and try to understand whether it can withstand some of these disasters. But recently, the National Building Review Board procured a mobile testing laboratory. So we can actually go to a site and run tests to determine the strength of the building, points of weaknesses, and we can actually guide this. Many of the parameters we get from the field, we use it to do a lot of the structural or building modeling to ensure that we put in place standards that can actually be used by engineers to design, but also the professionals should use these standards to ensure that the buildings that are constructed actually have such satisfactory resistance against such disasters.
Okay, when you look at our city and you look also across the country, we have buildings that are decades old.
Yeah. Meaning
some of these actually were put up at a time when most of these standards were not maybe discussed, they didn't have the knowledge. What steps are you taking backwards to ensure that also these buildings get to understand the standards and also put them in place regardless of the structures that are already there?
Exactly, and you're right, you're spot on. Many of the buildings, especially the buildings of the 60s, perhaps were constructed without proper design standards. But also what we are doing is to come up with strengthening techniques. And we're doing a lot of research in that area of the old buildings in the country. We will be going to Fort Portal, for instance, which is very seismically active area across the country. Lots of earthquakes there, and you can clearly see that some of the buildings are having cracks. Yeah. So we are putting in place some of the strengthening mechanisms, and we will propose this to the developers and of course the engineering professional bodies to ensure that we can strengthen these buildings. But also we've done rapid assessments of these buildings. We have very simple, quick assessment tools that we can undertake to know, for instance, what is the level of vulnerability of my building. So we've done that, but we have proposed a lot of strengthening mechanisms that we are putting in place.
I would like to know your parting shots when it comes to the entire work that is currently being put on ground. This week, actually, there was also a presser, still from the NRB, and they were talking about safety and standards of building. Your parting shots when it comes to all this.
Thank you very much, Betty. My parting shots would be that safe construction is the responsibility of everybody, not just the National Building Review Board. The developers, the engineers, government, of course, through NBRB is putting in place the regulatory standards and the measures. And so this is a collective responsibility. And what we are doing now as part of a broader project is to apply scientific evidence to support risk engineering and also come up with regulatory standards, as well as stakeholder education. We are doing a lot of this to inform the community about some of the potential disasters or potential hazards or potential building collapses that we might face as a country. So I would really implore the public to take on this responsibility, because building control is not the mandate of just one party. It cuts across to the entire public. Oh. And so the public, I implore you to demand for safe constructions.
Thank you so much, Engineer Oleng, and thank you for joining me in studio tonight. And there you have it. It is a collective responsibility. Its safety starts with you, and then we can then move into the other systems that have been put in place to keep us safe. And